Welcome to Plugged In, a podcast by Okefenokee REMC about our co-op, our community, and our shared connections. I'm Michele Hutchins, your Director of Communications and Marketing, and today we are talking about Anointed Boxing Outreach out of Folkston in Charlton County. And joining me today is the founder, Bobby Davis, and one of his newer coaches from here in Brunswick, Danny Green. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
So, Bobby, you and I met, I think, late last summer.
Yes, ma'am.
When you received a grant from the OREMC Foundation to help with your outreach.
Correct.
And at that time, you were going into more detail about what Anointed Boxing does and how it reaches out to the kids in need of mentorship and a safe place and educational support, and as well as a physical outlet. You know, they're energetic, they're young, and we want to channel that in the right direction.
That's right.
So let's start back a little bit at the beginning. Tell me about you and how Anointed Boxing came to be.
Anointed Boxing came about 22, because this is my second year with our organization. Growing up as a kid, you know, a lot of parents had to pay for kids to be involved with sports. Mm-hmm. So because my mom and my dad, we didn't have a lot of income, so we couldn't play sports because my mom just couldn't afford to pay membership. So we never was able to play sports. So as I got old, I started getting in a lot of trouble. Fighting, doing a lot of stuff. So in 2002, I ended up joining World Class Boxing, which is where I met Danny Green. In 2002, I started boxing at a gym called World Class Boxing in Camden County.
Okay.
And my sister and I were thinking at first, well, him getting into boxing, that's going to really blow up what he's doing anger-wise. So they was thinking boxing and anger just don't go together. Not realizing myself either, didn't realize that it was going to change the person I am today. And as I began to go in there and start the boxing, I started to understand boxing is a mental sport. It also make you think before you decide you're going to react on something. So then I realized then that I was, okay, now I got to make better decisions. Because now I can't just go out there and fight and do all kind of stuff. So as I began to go, I ended up breaking my wrist. So I had to pull out for some years. And back in early 2000s, my kid's mom had passed of overdose. So I wanted to get my kids back involved with some type of something that, you know, with their mind. And I thought about Steve from World Class Boxing. I said, I'm going to get my kids back into this program. So I reached out to him, found out where he had moved to, and I went over there one day and we started talking, not realizing the vision that God was finally put me on. All I seen was taking my kids, getting them into a program so that their mind would not be stuck on what all we just had to deal with. And as me and Steve the kids started to go to his gym, I started helping him do a lot of more stuff. Instead of me going there to train, I started helping him train the kids. And I just started helping him. And then one day he came to me, he said, I've been talking to my wife about you. He said, out of all the coaches I had here with me at this place, he said, I have asked all of them to help me as much as you do. He said, you ain't been in here that long. He said, you here before I get here. You able to open the gym, open all this stuff. And he said, I want to know if you want to go into partnership with me.
Yeah.
So I end up getting into partnership with him. We end up opening up another building right on Highway 40 in Kingsland, Georgia. And God had told me, God said, I'm going to move you back home. He said, the name of your...
So Charlton County's home.
Is my home.
Okay.
And God said, I'm going to move you. You're going back home. And you're going to help the community there. So I told Steve, I said, my goal is to help any kid come through those doors, adult. If they cannot afford to pay, then our job is to bring them in. Because what we fail to understand, a person can come to your door and say, I'm going to talk to this person, and if they don't talk to me, then I'm going to go home and take my life. You might be that last stop before that person decided they're going to take their life. So I don't want to be one of those people that turn that person away because of some money. And I always told him that. And as our program began to grow, I seen that he wanted to take a different approach at it. So when God allowed me to go back home, I stuck to that same program of making sure anybody come through those doors, our job is to love them, bring them in, and let them always understand it's not about money. Don't stress about money. Come in here. Get everything off of you. Let your mind be free. And as we begin to do that, the program began to grow. And I'm glad I got the wife that I do, because I spent a lot of my money opening this gym. A lot of money. I was over there day in and day out.
Well, let's back up a little bit and talk about programs. So first of all, let's address boxing, because boxing is something that's out of the norm. Like you said, you didn't play school sports, and you're not going to find boxing in school.
That's right.
So let's kind of myth bust a little, shall we, about boxing, just in the sense, because I mean, what most people are familiar with when it comes to boxing is what they see on TV.
That's right.
But what I hear you saying is that boxing is a channel. It is an outlet. It is a mental calculation. It is a discipline.
That's right.
Am I headed down the right
Yes,
path?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Explain that to us just a little bit.
Because when it comes to boxing, for one, you got to understand the foot movement. You got to understand the hand movement. It's a lot going through your mind the whole time. So when it give you that channel out, because you so focused on what you actually have to do, to like the depression, the ADHD, all these symptoms you dealing with cannot be there at that time. So your mindset is like, man, I got to get this right. So now you're not even realizing that it's giving you a therapy at the whole time. Okay. Your brain is being therapy, because now it's not crammed with so much stress, because your mind's so focused on everything that you has to do technique-wise. And I'm telling you, a lot of people think, boxing is easy. Boxing is not easy. Because if you're not focused, if you're not focusing in line, you're not going to make it in boxing. But it's a therapy. It helps so many people. We have now a lot of adult ladies that comes in our gym just to be able to punch something, but it release just like you going to sitting down with a therapist.
Sure.
It releases so much. And when they leave up out of there, man, they go home. I know the husband happy. The kids are happy because mama done found her out, and that's what boxing does. And Daniel better play, because he fought in the pros. He done have 34 pro fights. Oh, wow. So he can also tell you too what boxing actually does.
So I take it the boxing training, the training aspect of it, the outlet aspect of it is not so much the time in the ring, but the training to prepare for technique and.
Correct.
Yes.
You're correct, because you got hours upon hours of actually putting it. That's going to come overnight. So a lot of times, you think about it, I could show you a technique today. When you get home, you might not think about it, but your mind going to be like, man, what did I do? So now your mind's still off of the depression. It's still off of the other thing, because you still trying to figure out, what did I do wrong? Did I do it right? And you think about the next day going back in there, doing this all over again. So each time you going home, your mindset steady changing. Your mindset is now like, man, I got to get this right. So you standing in there, and instead of doing therapy, just like a human being sitting there talking to you and not realizing that, man, like this is really, really helping me.
Yep.
The depression is no longer there, because depression, and we all know, is you see people dying every day now.
Sure.
From young people all the way up to old, because you never know a person's story. You can look at them and you never know.
Well, and I think the other part of it too is, which we haven't really talked about, but is isolation is sort of what manifests or perpetuates depression. By coming to the gym and being part of the gym. You're getting out of that isolation as well. Right. Now, I know you've talked a bit here initially about adults and women, but really when I met you, it was about kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the other big component of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the boxing is a means, is an outlet, but there's so much more to your program than just the boxing. You
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yes, ma'am. Our program also, it helps when it come to kids. Our program also, when you come in my gym, it's it's family. Everybody in there is family. Everybody in there love each other. Nobody say, I'm better than you or you better than me.
Mm-hmm.
My kids also, when in school, we have to check their progress report. We check their report card. If they doing good in school, they can still box. If they not doing good in school, my wife, she teaches school. She'll take that kid. She'll tutor them till we get those grades back up. Then they can start back boxing.
Well, and that's the part that really made an impression on us when we met you and presented the check is, yes, it is about, the physical outlet, but more that you're educating these kids and helping them with their academic performance.
That's correct.
Because I think, you have internet access available to them if they need it.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
like you just explained, your wife tends to serve as the tutor for those that are sometimes falling behind.
If they're struggling.
Because the other part that you talked about is getting these kids involved in community service.
That's correct.
So talk to us about that a little bit.
Getting our kids out and let my kids understand that it's not just about them being selfish, and understand there's other people out there a whole lot, less fortunate as you are. Pastor, so it's time that we go out and we take care of the needs of those that are in need. And we had some right in my gym. We had a little girl. Her mom was telling us that, her room was real hot. And so I said, well, we gonna get together and we gonna get her air conditioner. So we bought a window unit for the little girl room. And after we got the air conditioner, I had never been to their home. Right before the 4th of July, the little girl, her mom and the little girl, they was to our house. And she kept saying it was still hot in the room where we put the air conditioner. I was like, still hot after the air conditioner we gave you guys? She was like, yeah. I said, can you send me some pictures of what actually, so I could see what's going on? I said, that unit should cool that room.
Sure.
So the mom got home and, man, she sent me some pictures, what I showed you guys.
Yep, I remember you telling me this story.
It was bad. It was really, really bad. The reason why the room never got cool, because they still had tin roof, no installation, plywood flooring. It was really, really bad. And I looked at my wife. I said, no. And I called the mom. I said, I see why it's not staying cool
it's
in
just
that
blowing
room.
right out.
Roaring right back outside. I said, no. I said, we gonna fix that.
And so did the kids get involved in helping you?
All of them.
Yeah.
Even the little girl who room it was, yeah. All of them got involved. They loved it doing it. That's the thing about it. Because they feel like they helping a friend. They feel like not realizing you billing more to go out and help somebody else. And we had a ball doing it. We went to their house on the 4th of July with sheetrock, screws, and we started putting in a window. We started putting up sheetrock, and them kids helped. They didn't like holding the sheetrock up, but they didn't mind putting it on the walls, but they kind of struggled when it came to putting it on the ceiling. But to just see how the kids, and you did not hear one of those kids, not one of those kids, pick at that little girl room. You did not hear one say, look how bad it is. You did not hear one kid say that about her. So you know what that made her feel like? They are family to me because she dealt with depression. When we got her in my gym, she would not talk to nobody. She'll get in a corner and try to shelter herself. And I gradually start pulling her in. It's them kids understand that we love them regardless. They need something, we there. So then to get them out and seeing how the older people seeing those kids react as well, make you just feel blessed. I mean, it make you feel beyond blessed. There's not no money that can ever replace that. To just see those kids willing to help, because you got a lot of kids like, no, I'm not doing that. Are you gonna pay me? That's what they look for, but these kids, they don't. They see this as helping a friend or putting a smile on somebody else's face. That's what my kids see. But my kids draw that same energy from the way my coaches and us draw the energy too. So if they seeing bad energy, they gonna draw bad energy.
Sure.
So when we go in there, we have had people come in and say they just come in there, they just feel like the love, they don't feel like somebody watching me or somebody, they don't. They just come in and they fall right in with everybody else.
Well, I mean, obviously, as you said, you started with this program in Camden County in Kingsland, and then, came back home, are doing your own thing where it's about focused on lifting people up. I mean, for lack of a better description, that is your goal, to lift people up, because whether they're adults and kids being the focus of what your grant was about, and trying to outreach to these kids, get more kids involved. The program is so holistic in the sense that it's the physical,
that's right,
the academic, and the emotional, and giving back. You talked about 25% of the population. Isn't it about 25% of the population in Charlton County is below the poverty line? And so that was one of the impetuses in doing this, because you're finding kids that are obviously in need of structure. And I think, one at a time is making a huge impact.
It's making a huge impact. And, like you say, it's about the kids. And if you think about it, like when we going in and redoing these homes, it's still about the kids. Because when kids got to go to school in an environment that they coming out of, when you go in these homes and you redo rooms, the whole house, whatever it may be, you changing those kids' life. Putting a brand new pair of shoes on this kid may change his grades. I was one of those kids where a lot of me and my sister clothes, we did what they call dumpster diving, because my mama couldn't afford clothes. So a lot of we never went in the store and was able to get new clothes. So I know what it'll feel like, because I'm sitting there, instead of me focusing on my grades, I'm focusing on somebody picking at me with what I got on, or somebody looking at my shoes because they got a hole in them. So when my kids come in my gym and I recognize everything with my kids, that's why I was telling you, any of my kids coming, I could tell you everything about them. I know when they're having a good day, a bad day, and when there's something just not right. I was one of those kids. So when I see a kid coming there and they shoes busted and whatever it may be, I'm going to buy a new pair of shoes. And we may think in ourselves, I won't get them no new pair of shoes. It ain't no guarantee they're going to stay. But that's not the purpose.
Right.
The purpose is putting a new pair of shoes on that kid. And now they don't have to look down and say, are they picking at me? Now they can focus on what they need to focus on.
Well, it's interesting you say shoes, because one of the other grants that we gave about the same time that you received yours was with Baker County, Florida, schools. And it was a shoe program in the school system. And it all stemmed from a young student came to the nurse's station for something. And, he didn't have shoes that were worth a whole lot.
That's right.
And it's a longer story as to why the nurse had a pair of shoes that fit him, but she did. And from there was born a program that now they collect and distribute shoes, and sometimes it's for the whole family. It's not just for the student. So I guess that brings me to how do students find out about your program, and who are you partnering with to bring kids in?
I teamed up with the Baileys, Champ Bailey and Dar Bailey. Well, right now she's involved now because
the Bailey brothers.
Yes, ma'am. Because they reached out to me. We fed 100 families for Thanksgiving. We gave out 50 turkeys and 50 hams and plus the condiments. Her mom been with my program since I started. She kept going to Atlanta telling them, say, hey, he got something very interesting going on in Charlton County. And so after the Thanksgiving giveaway, she reached out to me, asking me to give her a call. So as I gave her a call, she was getting ready, wanting to do a Christmas giveaway, doing 200 toys. And I said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to break these walls in this town. I said, we in order to get somewhere, we got to come together. We have to come together. Everybody wants to be the head. Nobody wants to be the foot. Nobody wants to be the hand. Everybody want to be seen. I told her, I said, look, I'm going to help you in every way. I said, you just tell me what to do. I love doing the footwork. I love doing the carrying. And she came down, me and her and some more people got this together in 3 to 4 weeks before Christmas. Mm-hmm. We was able to give out. We even had toys left. The news came down, and ever since that day, she told me, she said, Bobby, she said, whatever we could do to help you, she said, that's what we're going to do. I talked to Champ. He wanted to know about my program because he said, Bobby, he said, it's very interesting. He said, that's a lot of people should be trying to sponsor, trying to, so now they on board and trying to help me get funding, so that I don't have to continue to spend. Because like I told her, if it come down to my kids and spend the last dollar I got in my pocket, guess what? I will spend the last dollar in my pocket to save a soul. That's my job. Mm-hmm. And so now she partnering with us and trying to help me get everything together, stuff that I didn't really know too much about. They kind of knew because she helps Champ in Atlanta and the stuff that they have going on, because they got a nonprofit organization as well.
Who also just received a grant from OREMC Foundation.
So that's right. That's right.
So it's all connected.
There we go. So she doing a lot. She helping me now. I got a boxing event coming up April the 13th in Camden County at the rec department. Mm-hmm. We doing 35 bouts that day. Mm-hmm. 8 of our kids are fighting, correct? Almost 8 of our kids will be fighting in that show. So she's helping with the business part, and she just told me and Danny just make sure we trade our kids and have them ready. Mm-hmm. So that take a lot off of me. Sure. Plus Champ Bailey, I guess the insurance company that he's, I guess it's like this insurance company he have, well, they starting to sponsor my gym. Okay. She sent me all the invoice, told me what I need to do. She said, Bobby, they gonna start sponsoring that gym. Okay. So that's one company that's start to sponsor us. But like I say, I don't be out talking to a lot. I told Doll, I said, Danielle Bailey, I said, look, I'm a foot person. I said, I do more of the work than I do the talking. I said, now, if there's somebody that can talk and know where to put everything in line, I said, we do everything else. And she said, I understand. She said, but that's what you need. You got to have a good teamwork around you. Yes.
So you and I were talking before, you were talking about Secret Santa. So was it this Secret Santa that you discovered this situation that you were telling me about in St. George?
Yes, ma'am. The Secret Santa, we helped the Bailey Foundation, and we also was out doing Secret Santas for ourselves, from Anointed Boxing. And I reached out to the high school and I asked them, is there any kids that may, go without on Christmas Day? Mm-hmm. So the clerk told me that she'll have, I guess the teacher that handles all that called me. Mm-hmm. So 2 or 3 days went by and finally the lady reached out and she was telling me, she said about a family in St. George. She said, Bobby, they taking care of 3 teenagers. She said, the kids are super smart. And I asked her, I said, well, are there anything like they may need fixed in their home? And she was like, I don't really know because I never been inside. Sure. So she got their number. I was able to call them. They gave me permission to come down. Mm-hmm. Super nice. Awesome people.
And this is the kid's grandparents.
The kid's grandparent. Okay. I was able to go down and meet him. And I was more thinking about the ceiling, because that's what he told me on the phone. The ceiling was like it was coming down. And when we pulled up and I walked inside of that home, I was speechless.
More than the ceiling.
It was more than the ceiling. And I'm looking and I'm standing and I'm looking and I'm looking. And to them, to watch the elderly couple, just as nice as they want to be. And it's, when people get accustomed to something, that's all they know. And I was looking and I was like, I said, we got to do more than the ceiling.
And you've been working on that.
We've been working on that.
And so when you go to work on their house and do some improvement, do the kids go with you?
Some of the kids go with us down there because we want them to understand, hey, you can be the same person. So some of the kids go with us, and we let them do like handing tools, little stuff like that. Exactly, cleaning everything out. Because the first day we went down, we took pretty much everything out of. We try to tear what the little sheetrock that they had, and we was putting lights up, lighting up.
And the whole place, or just
when we finish, we will actually have done the whole entire house, plus added a 16 by 20
addition.
It's so much more than boxing. Boxing is a outlet, but it's also letting us understand too, there's more to life. It's so much more to life. We bringing our kids in to teach them something. But when we bring our kids in to teach them something, we also getting to meet a parent. We're also getting to do a whole lot of other things. And it's still steaming right back to our kids.
Well, and it's the community serving the community.
It's serving the community. And our kids will never forget it. They will never forget the stuff that they have done for somebody else. And if they get older, it's always going to be here. Like I still can't forget.
Well, a link at you.
Yeah.
You have been those children in the past.
That's right.
And you, as you said, you can look at them and know because you've been there, done that. Yeah. And this is why you're doing what you're doing.
That's right.
Coach Green, you were new. Mr. Bobby here said that you're new to the program. Talk a little bit about how long you've been involved, how you found out about it, and what inspired you to get involved.
Well, it's a guy, Lamont Supple, that was him and Bobby was, so in Glenn County, I always wanted to work with kids, but it's nothing up this way. You don't, like he said, it's hard to get the support in the area. So how did we end? We ended up communicating, and through Lamont.
Okay.
So we ended up talking, and at the time I had forgot that we knew each other. Then once we started talking, everything related back to Steve, to world class. And it's like what he's doing, I always wanted to be a part of that because it's about the kids.
Sure.
And it's more so every kid, some people just can't afford. Like he said, I hate to say the same story, but I was in that same situation. And, I asked God to bless me so I can bless somebody else. And it's just going to work with those kids and to see how they appreciate what you're doing. All of them don't have the same ability levels.
Sure.
But the only thing we want is effort, is discipline, and just to be a part of that kid's growth as a young child, a young man or female, and on. And it's about giving back. And, sometimes, him and I have even talked about expanding, but all in time. But right now, we got to make sure those kids in that particular area and the town city itself, the community they know.
Sure.
And it's about giving back.
Now, you mentioned that you had a similar story to Bobby, but he mentioned that you were a professional boxer.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about how you got from A to B.
I was in the military, and I went into the military to box, but because I was in a rapid deployment unit, they wouldn't allow me to.
I gotcha.
I ETS in 95. And I don't know if you're familiar with Brunswick? Well, it was a gym on Norwood Street, a weightlifting gym.
Okay.
And I went by there and ended up meeting this guy, Roger Sapp. That was when boxing was in Brunswick. He was involved. He was a fighter.
Okay.
So we trained, but I was a black sheep of the fighters. So he brought, one day, Steve Bell and Raymond Harris came from Camden.
Okay.
Steve was training people out of his house.
Okay.
So they came up there and they sparred. And he was like, well, what about that guy? He was like, well, so I got in there and I done the best out of all of them. And Steve shot me his number on the sly. And I would go down to Steve's house and train. And then I had amateur fights. I'm like 4 or 5 time Golden Gloves, USA Boxing. I was Georgia, been to the regionals.
Oh.
But because with my age, I had to go ahead and do something, so I turned professional.
Oh.
And after that, it's just watching those kids back then that was coming in. And it kind of locked. You know, I might not have been world champion, but I had a successful professional career. But you can still instill that in somebody else.
Right.
And that's just
it's about the journey,
right?
Not the destination.
And it might not be my destination to do that. It might be one of those kids, and it might not. But as long as they're a better person, when I take my hand off of them, or we take our hands off of them, we done pretty much what we need to do.
You're trying to equip them to have a more successful future.
Right. And it's not about just, it's the discipline. It's the, we in a sorority, because a lot of people can't do that. And to show them, you got to have your grades. You get out of life what you put in it. And it's really about with those kids, man, it's not that kid's fault that he or she is in the situation they're in.
But that there is I mean, like both of you, a way out, a way up. Right. Is what I hear you saying.
That's right. It is.
But
it is.
You have to commit to it, not just physically, academically.
You got to buy
emotionally. You got to buy in, and you're there to support them.
Right.
You're there to support them and embrace them, show them how to embrace and make a difference in others that have even less than they may have. And it's a full circle type of experiment. Yes, so how do people find out more about Anointed Boxing if they want to get involved in learning more? And as you said, everything so far is donated, and you're looking to kind of expand your reach, so to speak. How do they get involved? How do they find out more?
If anybody want to find out more about Anointed Boxing, they can reach out to either Coach Danny, or they can reach out to my wife, Brenda Davis. She handles she can explain more to them, send them anything that they need, links, whatever it is. And they also can find us on Instagram on Anointed Boxing. What it is, Anointed Boxing. It's Anointed Boxing on Instagram. Okay. And they also can go to Facebook. We got a Facebook page, Anointed Boxing. Okay. And they can see certain things that we actually do in the community, and see some of the stuff that we actually do inside of the gym. Okay. But one thing else I want to also mention to you too. Sure. When the kids, like Danny was saying, having them kids when you teaching a kid to box, and it's something that really, really goes a long way, and it makes a lot of sense. When you teaching a kid to box, they have to be committed. What do you have to be on a job? Committed. Committed. You have to stay faithful when it comes to boxing. You have to stay faithful on that job. Mm-hmm. If there's something that you truly want, you're going to give it all. Mm-hmm. So when it go to a job, you're going to give it your all. So we actually taking boxing and teaching those kids life. Yeah. I got to stay committed to this job, even though I don't like it. I knew I didn't throw the right punch, but I'm going to still stick to it. I didn't like what my boss said, but I'm going to stick to it. I feel like my footwork bad today. One of the employees said something bad to me today, but I'm going to stick to it. So we teaching them, when you go into the real world, take this same concept and apply it. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, you don't realize how strong you getting. And that same kid that thought, man, I'll never be nowhere. I'll never get nowhere because it's too hard. Same with that kid on that job that say, man, I don't feel like I'm getting nowhere, but somebody watching. And eventually. And you're going to find yourself way up here.
Well, I thank you both for being here today. And, I think what y'all are doing is amazing work, which is why I wanted to talk to you about it a bit more, to help shed some more light on your efforts and your outreach across Charlton County. Mm-hmm. And thank you all for listening. And as we said before, they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, and we'll also provide that phone number where you can call and ask for more. Again, thank you for talking to us about Anointed Boxing outreach.
Thank you.
All right, take care, everybody.